Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get
Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America. And you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill, driving America.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie, PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
We want to say welcome to Dr. Benjamin Wilson, EDD, the GECAC 6 Chief Executive Officer. Ben, good to see you. Appreciate you coming on.
Good to see you too, Joel. And Shaney, good to see you.
I tell you what, the folks should, full disclosure, we've known each other for at least 3 decades, and yes. It is amazing to see how your passion and rising through, paying your dues and rising through the strata to the point of really running one of the most important organizations in the city proper. So Absolutely. Exciting for you.
It's really an honor for me. Looking back 30 years ago, if you would have asked me, would you be the CEO of such a great organization, I probably would say, I have no idea, or even some of the things that I've experienced over the last few decades, coming from a single parent home and, some of the things I was dealing with as a young child, and now seeing all of this stuff that I've learned along the way, now, again, in this role, it's just an amazing opportunity.
Well, let's get started with your story here. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school and all that stuff,
Well, Mom and I moved here when I was about 6 years old.
Okay.
And so...
Where were you born?
I was born in Dunkirk, New York.
Okay.
About 45 minutes north of Erie. And we moved here because of the better health care. She had sickle cell anemia.
Oh, my.
And so I was the only child, and we moved to Erie.
I spent a year in Dunkirk.
Why would you spend a year in Dunkirk?
Well, my first full-time job was at WDOE 1410, and I lived in Fredonia, across from the college, from SUNY Fredonia. And
I lived right across the street at the little Fredonia Brigham Road apartments there.
Dude, that's where I lived.
Oh my, we were neighbors.
We were neighbors. Of course, that for me, that was 1984 and 85, so you would have been a wee one, right?
I would have been. We would have been in Erie by then. We moved to Erie when I think I was about 1980. I was born in 74.
All right. So I missed you, but I mean, that makes a lot of sense to say, hey, if I'm dealing with health issues, and people don't think about.
They don't think about
that
it.
Being close to these hospitals here, these incredible health organizations, is important.
Yeah, it was huge. Hammett was Hammett back then, and it was big for us. And she was encouraged to move here, and I guess moving to Erie was my first exposure to really social service agencies. The City Mission was an organization that we reached out to, and they provided a lot of help. GECAC was a big help with the programs that they had. And so without those organizations early on in my life, I don't know where my family or myself would be, because, again, single mother, moving here with one son, limited resources, what do you do? And
when you were little, in Dunkirk, did they have Head Start?
You know what? To be honest, I was too young to remember. What programs I was in. Most of my family lived in. My mom had 9 brothers and sisters, and so and a lot of them lived in Dunkirk.
Okay, gotcha.
So there was that family there, but then we moved here
yeah.
by ourselves.
Right.
And there was that, short disconnect.
Because I think about that early childhood intervention is a huge deal. So you moved to Erie, and tell us about your school age, your K-12 experience.
So I went to Pfeiffer Burley.
Nice.
Went to Pfeiffer Burley and McKinley for a little bit. Started to, I think once we got done with the whole McKinley experience, a few other family members moved here. So the Wilsons really started to build a little bit of a, presence here. But then went to Wayne Middle School. Mm-hmm. And from Wayne, I went to East High, old East High.
You're a warrior.
I am a warrior. After I graduated from East High, I'll be honest, I wasn't an A student growing up. In fact, that worried my mother a lot. I spent a lot of time at the different centers growing up because she really worried about, what am I going to do with this kid? This kid is, not excelling in school. I don't know what he likes. I mean, I have no idea.
And they had after-school programming that you went to?
After-school program at the City Mission.
Okay.
There was programs at GECAC that I also attended. Yeah. It was just she tried to keep me engaged because, again, I didn't have a lot of brothers and sisters, and so community organizations was that extension, for me to be able to engage in the community.
And you found the folks to be kind and competent.
Competent. I had to. I mean, my mother was like, I don't know when I'm going to end up in the hospital, so I need you to be cooperative because this is our family. The community center had to be an extension of our family. And so the people were amazing,
Wow.
and I think I fell in love early on with those types of services, people helping people, organizations helping people. Again, looking back, there's no way we would have survived without those types of resources growing up.
Was there a teacher or a volunteer at the community center that said, boy, this kid has got potential, man?
There were a variety of opportunities.
Because you know where I'm getting at, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it sometimes it's just that one person that gives that spark.
It was. 1 year I went out to the WLD Ranch.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know if you remember
100%.
my involvement out there. And I think that's when things really started to turn around for me. It was different. I was a hands-on type of a kid. We found out, just that's how I operate. I like to, so a lot of the jobs and the chores, it was a great opportunity. A lot of the friendships that I have today and resources that, I was able to get came from a lot of those relationships that I had out there. And that really just sparked my interest. Mm-hmm. And so when I graduated from high school, I had to take a little bit of time off.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to college right away because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But
how about like horse husbandry? Did you dig the horses?
I love the horses. I love washing dishes, and it was something that my mother was like, okay, I think this kid has figured it out.
Wow.
And so, to me, those mentors from the WLD Ranch, the mentors from the City Mission, the programs and services that GECAC was offering, and those people that we were working with at a very young age meant a lot to me. I think even in my younger years, I met you, and I mentioned to you I wanted to be a talk show host. So it was all of those things.
We can arrange that. We can arrange that, Ben. Okay. Oh my goodness. No, and you think about, again, this the history informs us today, right? As you take on this huge role,
yes.
And you think about that young 16, 17, 14-year-old that is interfacing with the stuff that you guys provide at GECAC. It's pretty remarkable how much stronger you can make an impact on them with that background, right?
Absolutely. I was actually just talking to my cousin about this opportunity at GECAC the other night. She said, would you have ever thought that you would be at GECAC? And I said, not in a million years. Not in a million years. And so this, to me, is just an unbelievable opportunity that I am really thankful for, and look forward to seeing what the next 60 years is going to look like.
Absolutely. So talk about when you did decide to go to college? What was kind of your journey post secondary there?
So I was working at a local residential mental health facility for youth, and I made that. I said, Ben, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to stay here? You need to figure out. And I was in my early 20s, so I ended up going to Penn West and getting my bachelor's degree in human health services.
Okay.
And then
is that like adjacent to social work or
social work, those types of things?
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, this is great, but okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to be a social worker now? Young kid trying to figure out, what am I going to do with this thing? Then I started thinking, you like being around people, leading people, thinking outside the box. Again, you're a hands-on type of a person, so what do you want to do? And that's when I went back to school, back to Penn West, and got my master's in communications. And then I got a advanced certificate in conflict resolution.
Oh, wow.
And so I said, okay, this is great. This is getting me closer to the things I like to do, the people I like to be around. While I was getting my master's, I ended up leaving this organization. Actually, it was Erie Children's Center. And then moved over, and I started working at GECAC.
Okay.
As their director of self-sufficiency programs while I was finishing up my master's.
Gotcha.
And so from there, I just fast forward. I ended up just recently graduating from the University of Pittsburgh with my doctorate in education.
Wow.
In social and comparative analysis. And so I think I'm done with the school bit.
It's about time. Yeah.
My wife said, we've been married 15 years and you've been in school 14 out of the 15.
Oh, my goodness. She's a saint, huh?
Exactly.
Oh, my gosh.
But yeah, that's the educational journey that I took. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this doctorate that you have, because that sounds interesting. A lot of data analysis? Is that what we're talking
So
about?
social and comparative analysis. And so a lot of people think, it's about numbers. And I'm like, no, it's about people. We really take a deep dive and really look at, what are the social issues and those things that are, really disrupting our society. Poverty, problems around, wealth, and disparity around, drugs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We like to, those are those social problems we really like to take and look at and pull those things apart and really find the root of the problem.
Kind of macro socioeconomic issues.
Absolutely.
As opposed to maybe the social determinants of health,
Absolutely.
which is more of on an individual basis. Mm-hmm. Hey, if I don't have housing, I can't really learn, or I can't, or my health suffers or whatever.
Absolutely. And
So you're looking at societies, you're looking at neighborhoods, you're looking at the community itself.
And so I just enjoyed really reading about the different theories around, what that looks like.
Yeah.
And how we can, what I can do as a practitioner to help solve those problems of practice.
What was your project or your dissertation or whatever?
My dissertation was actually ended up writing 2 dissertations, but I am not an
That's amazing.
No,
wow.
it's not. Well, while I was working on my first dissertation, I was looking at some of the disparities between around job retention and things like that. And I was actually working at the Career Link at that particular point in time. Ended up moving into a role at Thomas P. Miller and Associates, which is a consulting firm that I left to go back to GECAC. And so I needed to redo my dissertation. So I reached out to the former president, CEO of GECAC, Danny Jones, and said, hey, can I use our former, it's now the Earn and Learn program, can I use the Summer Jams program as my dissertation? And so I wanted to really take a deep dive in, what keep youth employed throughout Erie County, what type of training they need, what type of what motivates our youth, how can we get our youth into jobs that are self-sustaining, what type of career pathways. I really took a deep dive and did kind of an overall evaluation.
What'd you find out?
Found out our youth are very different than they are when we were, they were
when you were young.
When I was a youth. and we have to, there's different opportunities that I think for us that we need to start to explore to keep our youth engaged in this job market, and especially if we want to keep our youth local. There's so many different opportunities for youth.
This is an economic development
absolutely
deal right here.
It's totally, and I think we have that lens as older folk that we try to fit our youth in, and really they're teaching us how the economy is going to look 20 to 30 years from now, and what can we learn from them, and how do we leverage some of that knowledge and pour it into some of the programs that we're doing now.
Having a great conversation with the new CEO of GECAC, Benjamin Wilson, EDD. Dr. Wilson here, we're learning his story and where his passion comes from for this kind of work here. And we'll in the second half hour we'll dig into some of the real functionality of what GECAC's at in 2025, because this has been a evolving organization. This is not the same organization from 60 years ago, right? It's different. So it's different. So you did your dissertation on learning about young people and their work habits and things, and I think that's fascinating. And I'm interested in how this job kind of came to you, or how you went after this job, because you were a busy guy as a consultant. You were on area boards and things like that. I used to run into you, I think, at Erie together. Yeah, I mean, you've been a man around town, and then this is a pretty big job.
It is. It's a very big job, and it's almost like for the last, decade, I've always, and I'll be honest, said that would be an awesome opportunity to be the CEO at GECAC.
Yeah.
Never thought it would really happen, but always thought, man, that would be kind of cool. One of the first conversations that I had with Mr. Jones, who, is my predecessor, was I said, what does it take? I used to ask a lot of questions. What does it take to be a CEO? What do I need to do to learn? All those types of things. And he was a great mentor. And so I had to make the decision after the first time I was there, do I stay here or do I go out and learn how to be a CEO, learn some skills, learn how to, just see other perspectives throughout the country. And so when I landed the job at the Thomas P. Miller and Associates, the consulting firm, it was like godsend, to be honest, because it got me an opportunity to travel throughout the country and not only focus on workforce development, but there was an opportunity for me. I'll never forget, a client called the consulting firm and said, hey, we have a community action organization in the state of Indiana that needs an executive director. And we were looking on LinkedIn, and we noticed one of your consultants worked at a community action in Erie, Pennsylvania. And so they called and said, how come? I said, I used to serve on a board. I ran programs there. And they asked me to go in this small city in Indiana and act as the executive director. And I was there for about 2 months, 3 months, learned a lot, helped turn the organization around. The state of Indiana then reached out and said, hey, there's a couple other community action agencies throughout our network. Would you mind working with them? And I said, sure, this is great. Yeah. This is giving me, I'm learning about this, I'm learning about that.
Wow.
Coupled with some of the things a lot of the things I was doing throughout the country.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, am I being prepared for something back at home? And so when the opportunity at GECAC came about this past summer, when Mr. Jones announced his retirement, I said, I think I might be ready.
You might be ready.
Wow.
Wow.
So that was kind of the journey and how I got the opportunity at GECAC.
These community action organizations, again, they come out of the Great Society. Are all of them kind of the similar age, or have some of them been more launched more recently? Through government programming.
I think they're all about the similar age in all of my research. A lot of them started off with just your staple programs like Head Start and weatherization. And so they're taking, they look different now, community actions, and we're supposed to start to look different throughout the years, depending on programming and funding, but they're about this similar age, I would say.
Yeah.
50, 60 years.
Different sizes, different community context, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
I would think that Indiana's a little different than Erie, right?
Very different. Very different. The big, the community action that I worked for, it was the poorest county in Indiana. The poorest county, and so it was a food desert, and so they really lacked housing. Wasn't a big issue, but food was, and so we were able to revitalize their food bank. There was an opportunity for us to develop some partnerships to grow that relationship there with the local markets to work with us to grow their food bank. And there were other areas, they still had a weatherization program, so working with them on some opportunities to grow that program and just the various other opportunities there in Indiana. But yeah, it looked very different than what we do in Erie. There was another community action agency that I worked with in Pennsylvania. I helped assist with the strategic plan. In Eastern Pennsylvania, very different than what we deal with here in Erie. They all have their own issues, and that's really the neat thing about a community action agency. They're there to deal with the local issues when it comes to poverty, when it comes to health, when it comes to help with utilities, rent, aging. That's what we're there for. So
it's kind of the reason why there isn't just one size fits all, because the idea is to be responsive to the local needs, right?
To be responsive. A lot of people don't realize that we are mandated. Part of what we do is, one, we have to have our board structure looks very different than your average board. I mean, we have to have representatives from a low-income community. We have to have representatives from, the public officials. It's made up a little bit different.
Sure.
But then the other neat thing about, our community action agencies is we do a community needs assessment. And that community needs assessment is a very important piece where we're asking stakeholders throughout the community, local leaders, we're asking people who live within the community, grant makers, funders, those types. What are the needs of Erie County? Because that's the data we use when we're writing our grants.
Yeah.
That's the data we use when we're talking about the funding that needs to come in our local area. That's the data because it speaks to what we want to deal with and the programs that we want to offer and collaborate around.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, 5th next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
With us is Dr. Benjamin Wilson. He's the CEO of GECAC, the Greater Erie Community Action Committee. We still call it a committee, huh?
It is. I mean, it was birthed out of the 60s.
Right.
I mean, everything was a committee back then.
That's true. I love it. That's fantastic. Again, we do, and we have limited time, so I do want to get to some of the big pillars of GECAC's work, right? But we were just... Again, Ben and I have known each other a long time, so we have a very easy way of chatting. We were talking about workforce and about how everybody needs to get in the game. Mm-hmm. I don't care, what if you can get the skills, or if you have just the willingness to work, you could be from any different segment of society. I love when we have, let's say, the Barber National Institute, and they're trying to engage their clientele into the workforce. And we had a beautiful conversation with a fellow from Philadelphia who works at a Wawa in Philly, you know, and is a barber client. And it's like, I mean, it doesn't matter. East side, west side, urban, suburban, rural. We got to get to work. There's so much to do, you know?
There's a lot to do. And I think sometimes we make it a little bit, we over-engineer these programs, we overthink these programs. And this is just me talking.
Yeah.
But just throughout my travels, and I try to tell people want to work. And I said, you know, when we start to create the narrative that young people don't want to work, I think, one, we need to recreate that narrative, and because people don't want to hear that. You know, people don't want to say, well, they're saying we don't want to work, so I'm not going to work.
Yeah, it's self-fulfilling prophecy.
But it's, exactly. And I hear it all the time, and I said, so you're saying it, and so you're going to believe it. And so how do we reframe and how do we relook at this workforce issue and start to look at, you know, how do we engage people, because people do want to work, and I think we just need to be really creative about it and not over-engineer it and overthink it.
Well, you think about your work, you know, as a volunteer at the City Mission, right? And so, I mean, you have people coming out of addiction that are the worthwhileness of their work is a help, is a protective factor against falling back into addiction, isn't it?
Absolutely. And again, that's a perfect example of a population that, you know, that could seize the opportunity for opportunities to work in our workforce. It's a perfect opportunity for them, and it's a great tool for us to be able to go in and give them the skills, give them the opportunity to explore those types of, you know, jobs or whatever, you know, education, because, you know, it's just again, perfect example.
Talk about some of the things that GECAC has for work. Are you still involved with the kind of the jam or whatever is what came out of jam?
So it's now the Earn and Learn project.
Earn and Learn, okay.
And it's an amazing opportunity where we're really spending a lot of time with youth throughout the summer.
Okay.
Throughout the summer months, I know. It's the desire of the funders, you know, the county as well as ECRA, to look at, you know, expanding that opportunity throughout the whole year. And so we're trying to look at opportunities to engage these youth throughout the year. And then also, how do we engage our employers? Because without employers, and I heard it 2 or 3 times today, you can't provide jobs. And so I know, you know, this administration that's very important to them. I know it's very important to a lot of the other funders that fund that program, and GECAC's very committed to that. And so, yes, the Earn and Learn program is a big piece. Our ABLE program, which is our adult basic education program, is another critical piece. You know, for those individuals who are looking for a GED, they need help, you know, studying for the GED. Those dollars are crucial that we receive from the county to make sure that our workforce is ready to roll and have the education that they need to take a hold of any type of opportunity that might come in front of them.
Do new Americans, are they able to plug into the ABLE program, or is there different programs that you know, for second language learners that they can get a diploma, I guess?
And I'll be honest, this is the community action way. I know that there's you know, Mr. Horton has his program where he's offering you know, adult education classes and GED classes, and he's asked to partner with GECAC to be able to provide those services to the new American population, because that is a population he's done so well at engaging throughout the year, you know.
Sure, yeah.
We've worked with Booker T. Washington to provide services over at their location. We're working with, you know, so again, providing that basic education, that opportunity to get a GED.
Don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel at every different organization.
Exactly. How do we partner? How do we And there's GECAC has over 40 some programs.
Right,
So
yeah.
if you
We
want-
won't get to all of them. You need to go to the website.
Yes.
But this workforce piece is,
It's
I know
huge.
it's really up your alley, right?
It's really up my alley.
Yeah.
Yes. But one of the things I promise I promise I will plug this, is volunteers. People.
Oh, wow.
And we have our Meals on Wheels program, and we're constantly looking for volunteers. What a lot of people don't understand is a lot of times we get these grant opportunities, and there's no funding there for the staff. There has to be buy-in from the community. We're a community action organization, so our Meals on Wheels program, we have a foster grandparent program where we have an opportunity for older senior citizens to give back to the community by going into schools and being a foster grandparent, being that, extra set of hands in classrooms, those types of things. That's another volunteer opportunity, and we help coordinate that. I believe we do give them a small stipend, but again, that's an opportunity for someone to pour their time, their talents into someone else as well. Or that Meals on Wheels program where you're delivering a meal, and you might be a volunteer, but it gives you an opportunity to engage someone who may not have seen anyone all that day but you, Wow. So it's really an awesome opportunity for anyone, and that's why I fell in love with GECAC.
Sure.
That's why I love being the CEO at GECAC, as you can tell.
You mentioned senior adults. You guys are the AAA, the Area Agency on Aging.
Absolutely.
What does that mean, and what does that entail for you guys?
So again, since 1965, the war on poverty, Lyndon passing all of these acts around, the Community Action Network. During that time, there was an act, the Older Americans Act, and that's when the Area Agency on Agency was designated. That's a very important thing for Erie County. A lot of counties don't get that designation.
Oh, okay.
And so you have a host of programs that are funded for adult protective services, which, if older Americans feel threatened or there's issues in the home or there's any type of abuse, we have a 24-hour hotline that they can call to report any type of abuse. We help keep people in their homes, so as people get older, we provide the education for families around how do we keep your loved ones in a home. We have, again, a retired senior volunteer program. Again, that's another that falls under our agency, aging, the AAA.
Right, yeah, sure.
The foster grandparent program, dom care program. There's a lot that fall under that, that piece. But really, we want to act as that you're working or you have an older person that you really have some questions about with regards to programming. Give us a call, and we'll figure out what program best fits that need that you're looking for.
I mean, here's what's as we grow older, right? But I'm older than you.
I know. I need to learn these programs.
Well, it's astounding because people live longer, and so 67 isn't that far away from me, right? It's less than 5 years, and I'm thinking like, okay, let's say I retired at what the Social Security retirement age. I'm going to want to both be part of the solution, but also get some help, right?
Absolutely.
You guys run some senior centers as well?
I was just going to say, my first 2 weeks on the job, I got to visit a few of the senior centers. I believe there's 7 senior centers that we operate throughout Erie County. That was the best time of my life walking in. I tell you what, they're playing bingo, they're having Bible studies, they're hanging out with their friends. I was talking to one lady, and she says, this is my social network. My kids have moved away. This gives me an opportunity to come and just hang out. And I'm like, wow, I kind of want to come and hang out.
Sure.
But again, those senior centers mean a lot to our individuals here in Erie County because it's that connection that they have to others.
Well, and loneliness is is a trigger, is a destructive factor
Absolutely.
in aging. So by having that network is huge.
Having that network. I mean, you think about, one, they are a library of resources. They are. They truly are. And they're learning from each other. I'm learning from them. I think we all can learn from them. But then that's a generation, and as I think we all get older, the things that they've seen and experienced, and to be in an atmosphere that's just helpful, and it's pouring into some of their, allowing them to use some of their talents, it's an amazing opportunity. Erie really, when you talk community action, you talk about our AAA program, we are lucky. We are one of 41 community action agencies in Pennsylvania.
Wow. Yeah.
We have a statewide network that we work with. In our national network, we have about 1,000 throughout the country.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes.
Let's pivot. Let's talk about some other big chunks of work. You mentioned weatherization and things. What do you have for homeowners or those that are living? A lot of folks are on fixed incomes, and we hear a lot about trying to keep, like you said, keep you in your house, keep your house functional. Do you guys offer help that way? Yeah.
Well, we had a weatherization program, and just recently, again, this is one of the things with community action agencies, programs come and go.
Yeah.
One of the things I would love to focus on is getting some of those pieces back, especially with winters like this.
Sure.
It's a meeting in your house.
Absolutely.
And so we would love to look at opportunities to, bring some of those home programs back. But when we talk about programs, we've had and we are continually looking at opportunities for helping people to stay in their homes when it comes to mortgages.
Okay.
People learning how to manage
like a financial literacy kind of thing?
Financial literacy, working with the banks to really, people want to own a piece of property. Is it feasible? How do we work with those people who have no idea what a mortgage looks like, have no idea what a credit score should be? So that's part of the education that we want to continue to provide. We did that when I was there before, and I think there's still elements of that there, but one of the goals I want to look at moving forward is how do we strengthen those programs for people throughout Erie County.
I want to just do a little rabbit trail with you, and I remember when I was working for the church, which was my interim between the two radio gigs, is we took classes from, I think, a GECAC trainer about bridges out of poverty, and just being able to sustain and trying to understand how people in poverty think and how can they change their thinking to being able to be an investor, to be able to have more money and have savings and so on, as opposed to just living paycheck to paycheck. How realistic? In your as you see things, is that just an impossible task, or can people make bridges out of poverty every day?
People can make bridges out of poverty. I think you and I are really good examples of that. Again, there's that cycle, that how they think. I can't get out of this cycle, and so one of the things that the Bridges Out of Poverty program does is really be able to break that cycle. One of the things that I think about this all the time, it would have been very easy for me to live in the cycle that I was in growing up. I saw poverty around me. I saw sickness around me. We were on a very limited income. It would have been very easy for me to just pick up right after my mom passed away and continue that whole poverty. But to have the mentors, because that's a big piece in the Bridges Out of Poverty program.
Is, yeah.
Having a mentor, being accountable for it, having positive people in your life, those things help. And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. You asked who was part of your life and how did they influence you. That is a big piece of that program. It's just having that opportunity to come through and experience that type of program can be a life-changing piece for a lot of people living in poverty.
It seems that financial literacy is key here, and we're starting to see organizations across our community really say, it's not acceptable that only 4% of African American families own their own home.
Absolutely.
that can't happen.
It can't happen. You know, a good friend of mine told me, because if you ask anybody, I want to be rich. You know, if I had this amount of money, I would be great. But if you can't manage $10, you're not going to be able to manage $1 million. And so you have to be able to have some level of education about how do I manage, how do I invest, what do I need to look at in terms to grow this. And that's where we come in. We see this all the time. People run into a great deal of money and, you know, years later they're broke because financial literacy is important. It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. You've got to be able to manage that.
I've just got about 3 minutes left with Dr. Wilson. Ben, talk about a couple other big pillars that GECAC is known for.
Well, GECAC is known for, honestly, it's just we're right downtown. People see us, they pass by us, they often wonder what type of programs we run. And I think for us, we have so many different options. If you're struggling, you could get a case manager. Is that how that works? Case manager.
Okay.
You know, you can give us a call at 814-459-4581. If we don't have a program, and I think a huge pillar for us is we are a resource. We can get you in the right direction. So it might not be something we offer, but a big part of community action is really connecting people within our community.
Yeah.
You know, connecting, being that resource, and creating those long-lasting partnerships with some of the other centers throughout Erie County.
2025, what does it look like for you and GECAC, do you think?
What does it look like? For me, my biggest goal is really to get out in the community and tell people about our story and why we are relevant, why we are here. For us, it's a big deal for me. It changed an organization like GECAC changed my life. I want it to be around for another 60 years so it can change.
Sometimes it's hard for the older organizations to, people think that they know, I know about them.
Yeah.
And you may not at all.
You may not. I'll be honest, part of the legislation when community actions were formed, we get a very small pot of money, like very small, and it barely covers our admin costs. And so we are tasked with local grants, local programs, and so we're constantly looking for, and that's how because we have to have some skin in the game to be able to grow these programs, and we have to be passionate about that. Mm-hmm. Have a team that's passionate about it. And so that's, I think for me, I want to really focus on, why we are important and why our community needs assessment is important, so we can look for those programs to continue to grow, not us, but our community,
Where does, and I know you're a man of faith, where does faith fit into the optimism about a place like Erie and its people?
That's huge.
Maybe we don't have enough time. But no, faith has really directed you, hasn't it?
It really has. It's been a big piece in my life. I always feel like there's an opportunity for everyone, and we have to have a positive outlook. I feel for those people that are in the frigid temperatures that are out in the street. I feel for the people that don't know when that next meal is going to come from. I feel for even the people that work for us that, we're not able to give them the pay that they deserve. I feel all of that. And I think that's just, from the upbringing, from the things that I saw, my faith. I think all of that has something to do with, which is why I love my role as GECAC, because I really want to change the narrative, throughout Erie County and who we are as an organization, our partners, and beyond. So, yeah.
It's so great to have you here. Thank you for coming on. And again, you're not even 2 months into the role, but we wish you great success this year and in the years future. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Joel.
Dr. Ben Wilson, the CEO of GECAC. GECAC.org. Look it up, find out a whole lot more about it.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@talkerie.com.